Before the Big Bang, there was something even older, an ancient truth whispered through generations in Mali, a tale carried not in books, but in breath, spoken by griots under the starlit skies, passed from elder to child, echoing across centuries like a song too sacred to be forgotten. It's the story of how everything, time, matter, spirit, came to be, not from randomness or explosion, but from rhythm, balance, and sacred order. This is the Bambara creation myth. What if the universe was born from the breath of 8 spiritual beings? Not particles smashing in the void, but sacred beings shaping the cosmos with intent and wisdom. What if everything we know, sun, moon, rivers, language, even our very breath, was born not of science, but of sacred sound? The Bambara people of Mali hold such a story, and in it, there are truths far older than any written scripture or scientific theory. A world where every creature has a purpose, every number a meaning, and the cosmos itself is a reflection of divine intelligence. The Bambara, one of Mali's largest and oldest ethnic groups, are farmers, artists, and philosophers of the soil. For centuries, they've guarded an oral tradition that's less about myth and more about memory. To them, the creation of the universe is not a faraway fantasy. It is foundational knowledge, a blueprint that shapes how they live, plant, speak, and worship. Their myths are sacred, not just as stories, but as instructions. And among these, the story of creation is the most profound. Not just how the world began, but why it matters. In Bambara cosmology, nothing happens by chance. Creation unfolds with intention. Every element of their myth carries weight. The void before time, the divine being Pharaoh, the sacred number 8, the ancestral twins, the forces of chaos, and the restoration of harmony. It is a narrative that mirrors the inner workings of nature and spirit, offering a profound glimpse into a worldview that values unity, duality, and sacred balance above all. Tonight, you'll hear that story, not as outsiders, but as listeners invited into a sacred circle of memory. To enter the myth is to understand a different kind of truth, not one you can prove in a lab or measure with equations, but a deeper truth, spiritual, symbolic, eternal. A truth that lives in rhythm and ritual, in song and silence. So let's begin the journey together, not merely to observe, but to remember something our bones already know, something ancient and enduring. Before anything existed, before land, sky, stars, or sound, there was Gla. Not darkness, not light, not even silence. Gla was the absence of all things and the potential of all things, a formless essence that carried no name and yet contained the seeds of every name to come. It was the womb of existence, holding the memory of a universe, yet unborn. The Bambara speak of this void with reverence, for it is not merely emptiness. It is the sacred stillness that must exist before creation begins. From this great stillness stirred a presence, and that presence was Pharaoh. Neither God nor man, Pharaoh is the principle of order, the guardian of water, speech, and creation. Pharaoh did not speak the world into being. He sang it. From his mouth came vibration, and from that vibration, the rhythm of the universe. The waters moved, the void breathed, and the first waves of creation began to ripple outward. This was not chaos, it was sacred composition. But Pharaoh was not alone. The Bambara believe creation is never the act of a single will, but a divine collaboration. Out of Gla, other forces began to emerge, forces that would later take shape as the primordial ancestors. Yet in this early moment, everything still lingered on the edge of being, undefined and raw. Pharaoh's first act was not to form the world, but to prepare the space where form could arrive. Like a potter wetting clay before shaping it, Pharaoh watered the void with intention. In Bambara cosmology, water is not just an element, it is a sacred force that bridges the spiritual and physical realms. Water carries memory. Water is the messenger. Pharaoh, as the master of water, becomes the architect of meaning. His breath carries not just sound, but spirit. His words become laws of nature. He is not a creator in the Western sense, but a harmonizer, a divine musician orchestrating balance where there was only stillness. And so the void began to shimmer. The potential of being began to pulse. Not yet a world, but a womb ready to give birth. In that sacred moment between silence and song, Pharaoh planted the first seeds of order, and with them, the story of the universe began to take shape. From the breath of Pharaoh and the sacred waters of the void, the first beings emerged, not as solitary figures, but as pairs. Duality is not just symbolism in Bambara cosmology, it is the very blueprint of existence. Where there is one, there must be another. Male and female, light and shadow, speech and silence. The universe, as the Bambara saw it, could only stand on the balance between these forces. And so came the primordial ancestors, 8 in total, born as 4 male and 4 female pairs. They were not mere humans or deities. They were archetypes, spiritual beings who embodied aspects of nature, morality, knowledge, and cosmic rhythm. Each pair was entrusted with a piece of the universe's essence, a domain to shape, a lesson to carry forward. Together they represented the fullness of life, growth and decay, creation and destruction, mystery and revelation. Among them, the most revered were the Nomo, twins and water spirits, bringers of language and law. The Nomo are said to have descended from the heavens like rain, whispering the first codes of conduct and sacred geometry into the earth. They did not merely teach, they restored. In a cosmos where harmony could be broken, the Nomo were guardians of restoration. Their presence was both beautiful and terrible, a reminder that divine wisdom is not always gentle. But balance, even in myth, is fragile. One of the 8 ancestral beings rebelled. In a moment of dissonance, he defied the order set forth by Pharaoh. This rebellion wasn't mindless evil. It was a hunger for independent creation, a desire to act without harmony. And in that act, disorder seeped into the universe. It was the mythic introduction of chaos, of imperfection, of struggle. The world, once fluid and aligned, rippled with conflict. The response was not destruction. Pharaoh, in his infinite wisdom, did not erase the rebel. Instead, he sacrificed part of himself to restore balance. A divine act of humility, a lesson embedded deep in Bambara philosophy that even gods must sometimes give of themselves for peace to return. The first ancestors, shaped by this drama of balance and rebellion, went on to populate the earth with meaning. They were not just creators of physical life, but of ritual, of ethics, of language. Through them, the Bambara found the roots of their social and spiritual order. They taught that life is not simply about survival. It is about living in tune with sacred rhythm, walking in step with the ancestors, and honoring the eternal dance between opposites. The universe, freshly born and breathing through the rhythm of Pharaoh and the 8 ancestors, was not immune to tension. Where harmony exists, the potential for dissonance always lingers. It was one of the ancestors, driven by pride or perhaps by longing to shape the cosmos on his own terms, who broke away from the sacred order. His rebellion was not loud or violent, but it shook the fabric of creation. In the Bambara myth, even a small deviation from divine rhythm can echo across the entire world. This ancestor's defiance introduced chaos. His actions were like a crack in a drumhead, barely visible, but the sound would never be the same. The cycles of balance faltered. Water no longer flowed in perfect cadence. Speech lost its purity. The sacred number 8, once whole and symmetrical, fractured in spirit. And just like that, the cosmos, once a woven cloth of intention and unity, began to unravel. But Pharaoh did not respond with wrath. He did not cast the rebel into shadow or declare war against him. Instead, Pharaoh turned inward. In one of the most powerful moments in the myth, Pharaoh sacrifices a part of himself, his own essence, to heal the rupture. It is through this act that order is rebalanced. He pours himself into the world like water into dry earth. Through that sacrifice, speech is restored, time resumes its pulse, and the laws of the universe realign. In Bambara thought, this is not just mythic poetry, it's philosophy. True power does not dominate, it yields, it listens, it gives. Pharaoh's act teaches that when harmony is lost, it is not force, but humility and sacrifice that bring healing. And in this worldview, chaos is not evil, it is a necessary teacher, a shadow that reveals the brilliance of light. The rebel ancestor was never erased from the story. He remains a part of the cycle, a reminder that even in sacred design, the potential for disruption lives on. But so too does the capacity for renewal. The Bambara myth doesn't offer a world of static perfection. It offers a living universe, one that learns and adapts, one where order and chaos are both vital dancers in the eternal rhythm. To understand the Bambara creation myth is to enter a world where everything breathes meaning. Symbols are not just metaphors, they are the very language of the universe. Every number, element, and ritual action in the myth carries a weight that extends beyond story into the spiritual mechanics of existence. Nothing is arbitrary, everything resonates. At the heart of this symbolic system is water. Pharaoh, as the master of water, governs the flow between realms. In Bambara thought, water is the original medium of life, the thread that links spirit to matter. It cleanses, it carries, it remembers. It is no accident that Pharaoh pours himself into the world through water. His essence becomes rivers, rain, the womb. And through water, the ancestors are able to manifest, act, and restore. The world is not built from stone, it is born from flow. Speech is another sacred force. The Bambara hold that the spoken word shapes reality. When Pharaoh sings, he does not merely describe the world, he constructs it. The voice becomes tool, bridge, and mirror. It is through speech that rituals are performed, that wisdom is passed down, that harmony is invoked. This is why griots, the oral historians, are revered. Their voices are echoes of Pharaoh's original sound, keepers of the cosmic vibration. Numbers also carry divine charge. The number 2 represents duality, male and female, night and day, sky and earth. 4 is the cardinal directions, the foundation of space. And 8 is perfection in Bambara cosmology. The 8 original ancestors mirror the completeness of the universe. Each pair a compass point, a pillar in the cosmic house. When the rebel ancestor broke from the fold, it wasn't just a personal failure, it was a fracture in the sacred 8. To restore it is to restore wholeness. Even weaving appears as a metaphor. The Bambara often liken Pharaoh's creation to the weaving of cloth, a sacred act in their culture. Each thread is intention, each knot a decision. The universe, like a finely woven textile, holds together only if each thread follows rhythm. The moment one thread strays, the whole pattern distorts. And so creation is not a one-time event, it is ongoing maintenance, a ritual of reweaving. To the outsider, these symbols may seem poetic, but to the Bambara, they are practical tools for living. Every story, every number, every drop of water holds the key to understanding the cosmos. And in honoring these symbols, the Bambara do more than remember their myth. They embody it. The Bambara creation myth is not just a relic of the past. It is a mirror held up to our modern world. In a time dominated by speed, disconnection, and fragmented narratives, this ancient story offers a profound blueprint for reconnection. It reminds us that the universe was not built through conquest or chance, but through harmony, intention, and sacred rhythm. These are not abstract values, they are living principles, and they still speak. One of the deepest teachings of the myth is the importance of balance. In the Bambara worldview, duality is not a tension to be solved. It is a partnership to be honored, male and female, order and chaos, spirit and body. Modern life often pushes us toward extremes, toward division and domination. But the ancestors teach that true power comes from alignment, from listening, from holding opposites in sacred tension. We don't conquer chaos, we learn from it. We don't deny shadow, we walk beside it, guided by light. There is also a deep reverence for speech and storytelling. In a world flooded with noise, the Bambara myth invites us to return to sacred sound, to speak with purpose, to listen with intent. The griots of Mali are not entertainers. They are vessels of memory. Their stories are not just entertainment, they are maps. And in a digital age where stories can be manipulated, lost, or commodified, the myth urges us to protect the integrity of our narratives, to pass down truth with care. And then there is water, the metaphor, and the matter. In the myth, water connects all things. It nourishes, cleanses, and remembers. Today we pollute it, we waste it, we take it for granted. The Bambara story insists we do otherwise, that we treat water not as a resource, but as a relative, a sacred being that carries the voice of creation itself. How different would our relationship to the earth be if we saw rivers as ancestors? Perhaps most importantly, the myth reminds us that creation never ended. The universe is still unfolding. The cloth is still being woven. We are all part of it. Every word, every action, every breath. The ancestors are not far away. They live through us when we act with wisdom, when we restore harmony, when we live in rhythm with the world. Their story is not ancient. It is alive. From the stillness of Gla to the flowing waters of Pharaoh, from the sacred breath that shaped the cosmos to the living symbols that surround us today, the Bambara creation myth is more than a story. It is a sacred memory, passed down through the mouths of griots and embedded in the rituals of everyday life. It is not a fantasy to be believed or rejected. It is a truth to be honored, a rhythm to be remembered. We've journeyed through the birth of the universe, not as a singular explosion, but as a divine collaboration. We've seen the ancestors rise, rebel, and restore. We've listened to the voice of water and the wisdom of numbers. And in each part of the story, we've found reflections of ourselves. Our struggles with balance, our longing for meaning, our need for harmony. This myth doesn't end. It cycles, just like the seasons, the rivers, the stars. It calls us to participate, to recognize that we are not separate from creation, but threads in its endless weave. That each choice we make, each word we speak, is part of the ongoing act of creation. Let this story be more than a tale you've heard tonight. Let it be a lens, a map, a reminder that we come from rhythm, that we are shaped by intention, and that somewhere deep in our bones, we already know the path back to harmony. If this journey moved you, if it opened your mind or touched your spirit, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. There are more stories like this, waiting not just to be told, but to be remembered.